From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
It's not a bear going over a mountain. How rescuers think this unusual hiker found his way 10,000 feet up. John Deere is facing a lawsuit filed against it by the government. Why the FTC is targeting the green and yellow. As USDA releases new information for farmers when it comes to producing crops for biofuels.
When that happens, the economic benefits will in fact be substantial.
We look into the type of money at stake right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer.
Ben's bins, please hold.
Yeah, Ben's has been busy all day.
Seems like no one can keep up with this new Z series. What did you all put in these seeds?
Science.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. USDA has released guidelines for farmers when it comes to producing climate-smart crops for use as biofuels. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack announcing details farmers will need in order to get paid for their efforts. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. Michelle, officials have added an additional crop to the plan.
Right, Clinton, in addition to corn and soybeans, USDA is adding sorghum to the technical guidance on how climate-smart ag crops can be used as biofuels feedstocks. They've also developed a carbon intensity calculator that incorporates the GREET model and will help farmers earn a premium from those practices under 45Z. And Ag Secretary Vilsack is confident they've paved the way for the Trump administration. USDA has established technical guidelines for quantifying, verifying, and reporting the greenhouse gas emissions tied to climate-smart ag for biofuels feedstock crop production. Ex-Secretary Tom Vilsack says they made significant progress from the 40B tax credit program.
First of all, there's an additional crop. In addition to corn and soybeans, we now include sorghum. There are additional climate-smart agricultural practices, including reduced tillage and fertilizer application timing. As importantly, practices may be used individually or in combination. They are not required to be bundled.
To better calculate the CI reductions, the agency is also releasing a carbon intensity calculator.
This is going to enable users to see preliminary CI values for included crops and climate-smart agricultural practices in their respective counties specific. Once this tool is finalized, Treasury and others should consider USDA's technical guidelines in proposing rules that recognize the CI benefits of climate-smart agriculture.
The calculator will show how much specific climate-smart ag practices like no-till reduce carbon intensity, thus increasing revenue and market opportunities for biofuels producers.
When that happens, the economic benefits will in fact be substantial. They could be up to $1 or more per bushel.
This tool will dovetail into the updated GREET model as part of the 45Z tax credit program.
We've been working collaboratively with our interagency partners throughout this entire process. And we've been working through our chief economist's office to ensure that what we do fits nicely into the GREET model and can be incorporated in the GREET model. That's the whole point of this.
And the secretary says this guidance paves the way for the next administration.
Obviously, the next administration's got additional work to do, and the expectation, of course, would be that they will follow through on this.
However, the interim final rule will have a 60-day comment period, and biofuels groups are still awaiting the release of the updated GREET model from Treasury. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. As he announced the new biofuel initiative, Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack said this would be his last press call as secretary. Vilsack telling news media on the call he's been honored and privileged to be in the position, saying that only one other person in the history of the U.S. has had the job longer than he has. He went on to say he's very proud of the work done by the people at USDA. Now, he highlighted the increase in rural populations, a drop in persistent poverty, job growth, along with increases in farm income and record exports as key elements. And he says he's had a chance to meet the next nominee to be Secretary of Ag, Brooke Rollins.
I've had a chance to visit with the nominee on the phone. It was a cordial conversation, and we agreed that the content of that conversation would remain between the two of us. So I'll honor that request.
Now, Vilsack added that he feels pretty good about what USDA has done, and he's excited for the next chapter of his life. The bitter cold snap is taking a break from the Great Plains to the Appalachians. Meteorologist Jack Van Meter joins us with more.
Taking a look at the high temperatures today, we can see that much of the country is actually going to be warming up. That Arctic surge of air is slowly starting to retreat back to the north. As we can see, temperatures today, again, a little warmer than they were for the past days this week. 37 degrees there in Chicago, 42 in St. Louis, and even up in Bismarck. They're actually at 38 degrees for a high temp today, getting close to that 40-degree mark. But take a look at temperatures tomorrow morning. Again, going to be a little chilly, but not as bad as we've seen earlier today. Again, as we could see, for much of the northern half of the country, pretty much at freezing or just a little below it. And then actually for Friday's high temperatures, so we could see everybody pretty much getting pretty close to 40 degrees, especially Chicago and Minneapolis getting close to 40 as well. But don't let these warm temperatures fool you. A cool down is on the way. And now it's been over a week since firefighters started battling those blazes in Southern California. Crews say while the winds aren't as powerful as they were when the first fire started, crews say they're up against the dry conditions and low relative humidity levels, which is increasing the risk for new fires to pop up. So let's hope that doesn't happen. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
The Federal Trade Commission has announced it is suing John Deere. The lawsuit accuses the company of unfair practices when it comes to repairs. Now, the FTC says the attorneys general of Illinois and Minnesota are joining in the lawsuit. The complaint alleges for decades Deere has unlawfully limited the ability of farmers and independent repairers to fix Deere equipment, instead forcing farmers to rely on Deere's network of authorized dealers to make necessary repairs. Now, it claims that practice has boosted Deere's multi-billion-dollar profits on ag equipment and parts. The suit claims through limited distribution of its repair tools, Deere has been able to control and limit who can repair its equipment, allowing it to maintain a 100% market share and charge higher prices. Now, Deere releasing a statement on Tuesday, not directly addressing the lawsuit, but announcing new capabilities that will be integrated into the John Deere Operations Center to allow producers more solutions for diagnosing and repairing equipment. It says the latest addition to Deere's suite of digital solutions will further help customers and independent repair technicians by enabling them to reprogram Deere manufactured electronic controllers. You may have noticed a spike in egg prices along with fewer being on stores' shelves. Well, it's due to the ongoing egg shortage caused by avian flu. According to USDA, in November and December alone, more than 17 million egg-laying hens died as a result of the virus, and it's expected to take months to replace those flocks. Fewer egg-laying hens means fewer eggs and higher prices. According to Nielsen IAQ data provided by the American Egg Board, the average price of a dozen eggs of any kind at the end of December was $4.33. That's up nearly 25% from the beginning of November. Farmers looking to protect their operations in 2025, USDA says it's opening the enrollment for the Crop and Dairy Safety Net programs. That includes the Agriculture Risk Coverage, ARC, Price Loss Coverage, PLC, and Dairy Margin Coverage, or DMC programs. Crop producers are welcome to apply from January 21st through April 15th for ARC and PLC, while dairy producers will have from January 29th through March 31st. Producers are encouraged to contact their local FSA office for more details or visit the USDA's web pages. It was another mixed day for markets at midweek while livestock continue to trade higher. We'll talk about prices coming up next. And later, a climbing goose gets a helping hand in the mountains of California. That story in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator Closing Wheels provide quicker emergence and are more consistent in dry conditions than any other closing wheels. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
Oil prices are taking a slight dip, with the U.S. Energy Information Administration projecting steady demand here at home this year alongside a slight increase in supplies. While AAA reports the average cost of a gallon of gasoline on Tuesday was $3.08 a gallon. That's up about 6 cents from a month ago. But experts say diesel, jet fuel, and heating oil have all moved up significantly so far this year in 2025, up as much as 18 cents per gallon in some cases. Right now, diesel is averaging $3.59 a gallon. Another deal is in the works for two ag businesses north of the border, with Canada approving Bunge's $8.2 billion acquisition of Glencore-backed Viterra. It comes after the companies agreed to concessions addressing antitrust concerns. It included selling 6 Western Canadian grain elevators and imposing restrictions on Bunge's 25% stake in G3 Global Holdings, which is a partnership involving Saudi Arabia and Canadian farmers. There will be controls on Bunge's minority ownership stake in Saudi-owned G3, and the Viterra head office must stay in Regina for at least 5 years. It's reported Bunge, Viterra, and G3 account for a combined 1/3 of Western Canada's elevator capacity. Corn was back in the green midweek, while soybeans and wheat pushed lower. AgDay's Michelle Rook is back with more on if the bulls have run out of steam in markets now.
Corn and cattle to the plus side, but soybeans lower on Wednesday. Don Rose U.S. Commodities is back with analysis. So let's unpack this. Corn to the plus side, it looks like pushed by Argentina weather, Don?
Yeah, I think the big issue is, we're having a price adjustment from the crop report that we had on Friday, which was positive on corn, mostly a little bit positive on soybeans. But, the corn market, we're the cheapest in the world right now. We're very competitive. Argentina is the next one up to bat, April, May on harvest. In their crop we don't know about, but it's warm and dry here for the next 10 days, Michelle. So adding some risk premium still to the corn on top of the crop report on Friday.
And what about soybeans? They started off higher on Wednesday, but then kind of sold off mid-session. Was that a South American weather it was trading, or was that the NOPA crush figures?
Well, I think the soybeans don't have a real bullish fundamental story unless you get into some real weather problems in Brazil. Argentina, looks like, the crop's struggling there a little bit, but Brazil should more than make up for any losses in Argentina. That's the issue. So we'll watch Brazil close. But, it is true that the crush number was a big number, record number, and, that you're crushing for the soybean meal. So too much meal, a lot of tonnage on the meal as we're crushing for the oil, and that was an anchor on soybeans also, Michelle.
And then corn and soybeans just keep kind of running up into chart resistance here too, don't they?
Well, and that's it. I mean, the corn market, what have we done? We've rewound all the way back up to the mid-June levels, basically. Basis levels, of course, came under pressure on this rally. Soybeans up to big resistance also. Spike top, remember, on the soybeans chart-wise, so that's a little warning sign for the bulls. We've been in going on a month uptrend buy signal on these grain markets moving up, but it's overbought at some mature levels. You got to be careful going into a 3-day weekend that anything can change with this weather out here, Michelle.
No doubt. All right, thanks so much. Don Rose with U.S. Commodities. A lot more Ag Day coming up.
Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
For all your risk management and trading needs, call one of the U.S. Commodities specialists at 800-247-4071.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the situation down in California. Yes, it's still dire, but good news is the winds are starting to ease up a little bit. Today's fire risk is only going to be elevated, and this is one of the lower levels that the Storm Prediction Center, who controls the Fire Weather Center, usually puts out. Again, they're still battling the low relative humidity, right around 10 to 20%. So hopefully we can get some moisture down there. Unfortunately, the forecast just doesn't support it. Here's that current snow depth chart, especially when we go out to the Rocky Mountain states. Of course, in those higher elevations, we're talking just to the west there of Denver, we're seeing plenty of snowpacks starting to form. And actually in the lowlands there of Montana, we're starting to see right around 3 to even isolated pockets of 6 inches of snow. But there is notable lacks of snowfall in parts of the Great Plains states, and we are going to be seeing a few chances for some snowfall, but nothing major headed that way, especially for the middle part of the country. Let's go ahead and track out a couple systems. First off, dealing with this big clipper system that is going to just be gently diving into parts of the Great Lakes state and then quickly exiting on the east coast, if not completely fizzling out. And then actually what we're going to be seeing is, again, more moisture building from the Gulf of Mexico, a lot of rain, maybe a few thunderstorms as well for our southern states, and of course to the north for this weekend. Going to be dealing with some snow showers moving through, and again, those are those isolated, very small chances of just some flurries out there in the plain states. And it's all because of the jet stream. As we can see, big ridging is going to be taking place out to our west. That being said, going to be fairly short-lived. As take a look at these pinks and purples really starting to dive down into the middle part of the country. This is on Saturday. This is Sunday, getting colder, and Monday and Tuesday, polar air will be moving back into the United States. Giddings, Texas, 64 degrees, low of 40 degrees. Columbus, Nebraska, 48 degrees and a low temperature of 29 degrees. And Dorr, Michigan, 33 degrees, low of 26 degrees.
While USDA is announcing another reform under the Packers and Stockyards Act, it's canceling another proposal. In June of last year, the agency proposed the Fair and Competitive Livestock and Poultry Markets Rule. It says it received more than 13,000 public comments about the proposal, and due to the complexity and the time needed to finalize the regulation, it's being withdrawn. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association welcoming the withdrawal, saying the regulation would have dismantled current cattle market agreements, threatened producer profitability, and would have reversed decades of innovation in the cattle industry. Meanwhile, USDA announced a plan, it says, to create fairness and transparency for contract growers in the poultry industry. The rule would give chicken farmers better insight into companies' payment rates for their birds and would institute stability and fairness into what is commonly known as the tournament system. The American Farm Bureau says the final rule is a step in the right direction and will benefit contract poultry growers nationwide. And NCBA and the Public Lands Council aren't happy with the revised listing of grizzly bears by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. The law would clarify the areas where the bears are subject to protection under the Endangered Species Act. The proposed rule from the agency would establish a single distinct population segment encompassing areas in Idaho, Montana, Washington, and Wyoming. It says that's where suitable habitat exists and where grizzly bears currently live. NCBA says the proposed rule does nothing more than move the goalposts for species recovery and denies sound science. It says science already shows grizzly bears have recovered in those 4 states, now designated as a single district. While dairy cattle have gotten most of the attention lately when it comes to avian flu, researchers are also looking at other animals on the farm impacted by the virus, including barn cats. The study just published in the journal Emerging Microbes and Infection looks into how cats are affected by the virus. It notes concerns that felines may hold the potential for the H5N1 virus to evolve in a more dangerous version. The study examined the deaths of 10 cats in South Dakota last April. One researcher says cats can provide a potential pathway for the virus to spill over into humans. However, there currently is no study that shows that transmission path, but the virus often takes a deadly toll on cats. Another study says it can have a mortality rate of up to 67% in felines. You know, mountain climbing in the cold weather isn't for everyone or every bird. How this goose found its way to the upper reaches of this California mountain in the country, next. Rangers in Northern California happened upon an unusual climber. The Rangers are from the Mount Shasta Avalanche Center. While they were out on regular patrol, they came across a goose. And this goose apparently went on quite an adventure because it was found 10,000 feet up the mountain. Officials say the goose probably got there by a combination of flying and walking on its webbed feet, but rangers say the goose only had one layer of down and wasn't prepared for the cold temps or camping overnight. So they gave it a quick ride down the mountain and dropped it off at a local pond at a much lower elevation. Now, rangers say they believe this marks the first attempted ascent of Mount Shasta by a goose. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.